In our constant in our constant endeavor to benefit and inspire change, AAJJA brings to you the Knowledge Series, a series to understand expertise and interpretation of prominent experts from different genres of the building industry. Today, we begin this series titled Pre-Design and its Importance in Professional Practice. We have architect Sibani Sarma in conversation with architect Naresh Shah.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks, Ramandeep. We are still waiting for Mr. Naresh Shah to join in. He's having a little bit of difficulty, but I think I can just start with his introduction actually in the meanwhile. Or should we just wait for a moment?
Meanwhile, Sibani, I think if Hiten, as president of AAJJA, would like to speak a few words regarding this forthcoming new series.
Right, I think that would be good.
Thank you, Hiten.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I think I was mute, and I was feeling so happy that two gorgeous women, ladies, were inviting us on this particular platform. First of all, let me wish all of you a very happy New Year. And with last 2 years, which have been lots of have seen lots of challenging moments all around. I think this year we all would have lesser of those stressful moments and would like join our hands and fight the whole kind of environment with positivity and happiness. With this, I think we had endeavored that from the time my committee took over the charge, and we were unfortunate to physically meet everybody, but I think we took some opportunities where we could all get together on this wonderful online platforms. We had series of meets on with the various stalwarts coming on this particular platform from India and abroad. So that was quite a you can say a particular sense of achievement, because we were all hopeful that this particular time will end soon. And in January and February, perhaps we were actually in December, I remember we were planning to have a small outing just to physically meet each and everybody of us and share our experiences, whatever had happened in last 2 years. Nevertheless, I think I must congratulate Bobby, Shibani, Ramandeep, Parish, everybody in my team, in fact, Tripti, Vivek, that we all again got together and organized these series of events which are going to make us all come together once again on this platform. Shibani, let me know when Sir Naresh sir joins, and we can instead of listening to me, I think we can listen to him. Shivani, you're on mute.
Okay, I had kept myself on mute because I was just trying to help. Okay. Yeah, he's almost there. Just give us a moment.
Okay, just let me know.
Yeah, let me know.
In the meantime, we were looking out for involvements of literally every architect, AAJJA esteemed member, to participate with us to organize such kind of events, so that we can keep the spirit alive and going. We did see, we learned our lessons, in fact, on various kind of topics which we had chosen earlier. And we did speak to many new joinees of AAJJA who expressed their sort of willingness and ideologies of what they are expecting out of this platform. So individually, I think there have been lots of activities on smaller groups which kept on happening. I think I must say that Bobby was quite active throughout these particular sessions, and not only on this platform, but otherwise also, I think he has a very nice sort of habit of being in touch with everybody through some reasons or the other. We had our esteemed members who actually shared our projects. There were esteemed guests who already shared their experiences, and so on and so forth. In coming time, I think what we intend to do is, I think we are in now a time has come where we really have to come down together. Today, I had a very interesting meeting with one IIT alumni group, in which they have actually come together and started various activities in semi-skill programs. And they have got all IITians together, pan-India and globe. And they have actually, they're working on 18 different campuses, pan-India, supported by various different governments, where they're creating a lot many engineers and semi-skilled workers through engineering teachings. I mean, that was very impressive, and I was talking to them that how we can actually get down together where we can actually create architectural assistants. We have a lot many architects today, which are passing out of the colleges, but I realized that term architect is being I must say is being used not in a very proper language. I think the work which is expecting out of a fresher architect is perhaps similar to what is expected of a draftsman with a couple of years experiences. So I think there has to be a different ideologies which have to be imbibed in the faculty of architecture, and we have to have assistants who can actually support us on various different assignments of whichever happens at different levels. BIM is coming up in a big way, and architectural design practices are revolving around the production drawings through these highly sophisticated softwares. And I think that's where we were thinking that we can extend our arms through different fields by creating semi-skill sort of skill labors, or in terms of draftsmen and so on and so forth, resources through B and C class cities like Jharkhand and other. So I've been another vertical thing was that we can actually start documenting our different projects which are being which are being dealt by all the stalwarts in this particular group, and it should be open as an archive to everybody who is a part of this particular alumni. So accessibility to such kind of projects becomes very challenging because the data is very limited to different resources. Similarly, I think the endeavors of getting along with the different architects in different part of the country itself will be a good exercise, which I think platforms like this may be able to help us doing that.
Thank you so much, Hitin.
Yeah, thank you.
And we have Naresh with us, a man who really doesn't need much of an introduction, but I'll still do the honors for people who joined in late into the AAJJA forum. Naresh is from the 1961-66 batch of Sir J.J. College of Architecture. He is one of the founder members of AAJJA and actually its first president as well. After serving for 2 terms as president, he now is a senior member of the AAJJA Management Committee. Naresh has worked in the US for 35 years as an architect and was a member of AIA and certified by NCARB with a license to practice in about 10 states of the US. Since his return to India, he has been engaged in introducing and promoting the concept of pre-design to the architectural committee. In fact, with this in mind, he had also started a group called the AAJJA Pre-Design, where they have held seminars for week-long seminars across the country, even through Council of Architecture. In 2015, the COA published his book, An Introduction to Pre-Design, which was distributed in 400 colleges across the country. And currently, Naresh is engaged in the pilot project for the COA in an online training video series. And he's also completing his second book, much awaited actually. It's called From Pre-Design to Design. I now hand you over to Mr. Naresh to speak with us about pre-design and its importance in professional practice. Welcome aboard.
Okay, thank you, Sibani. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Pre-design. What is pre-design? Pre-design is an architectural service, and it's important for two reasons, at least in the US. The first reason is that it's a legitimate part of architectural practice, just like design is, just like doing construction documents is, just like doing construction administration is, just like doing feasibility study is, just like doing interior design is. But the second reason is the most important reason, at least in the US, and that is no professional architect will enter into a contract with a client unless the client has a document called pre-design. The contract stipulates, the owner architect agreement stipulates that the owner will furnish the architect a copy of a pre-designed document. And therefore, this is a very important part of architecture practice in America. So the question is, what is pre-design? Pre-design is basically a client who states what he wants, the corporation what it wants, shows the site, has an analysis of the site, make sure that the zoning and all the building bylaws and all of that, the site conforms to that, and does a cost estimate and does a schedule. Now the client doesn't do it, so client needs somebody to help him do that. But this is essentially a client's work. And what it does is that it prevents a lot of problems later on during the design phase. Let's assume that all you have is a brief and no pre-designed document. And the brief, as all of you know, tells you what the client wants. Now, what the client wants and what the client needs are two different things. But unfortunately, what happens is that as a design architect engaged in the design, he interacts with the clients. And in the process, all of these discoveries are made. And what happens is that the scope of work changes. And when I say changes, invariably it expands. This is what is referred to as scope creep. And it goes on and on and on till the end when the contract documents are done and the contractor's bids are received and the owner is for a sticker shock. All of a sudden, they don't understand a $20 million budget building, the construction cost is $40 million. That's when the search for the guilty party commences. And since the search is being done by the client, guess who the guilty party is? The architect. And when you talk to the architect, he says, wait a minute, I started with a certain assumption, certain requirements, and then the client kept changing the requirements, very often increasing the requirements. Client also had some high notions about what their facilities should be. I mean, I speak from my experience where the first question you ask your client is to, what kind of building you want. And invariably, he will say, or she will say, state of the art. And the definition of the state of the art from the client changes. Once you get the sticker shock, it changes. It's pared down. So what happens is that at this stage, you have a project that is over budget. You're already exceeded the scheduled time for the design. And now you have to redesign it. You have to cut and paste and do all kinds of things. And you're doing it with a finished 100% construction documents. That takes more time. So problem with the scheduling, and that takes more money. This is a situation that architect finds himself in a situation, typical situation. And in America, it's a litigious society. Unlike the architects in India, an American architect has to have a professional liability insurance. And anytime insurance comes in the picture, there's a disaster. So the pioneer of pre-design, William Penier, who has written a number of books on pre-design, his first paper on pre-design was not addressed to architects, it was addressed to the client. It was telling client how it is in their interest to sit with somebody, talk to them about their requirements, explain to them what it is they need, answer their questions, answer their queries, subject to being grilled by somebody saying, why do you need this? Why do you need that? Then have the same person look at the site and see the potential of the site, whether what you want can be accommodated on the site or not. Then develop the square foot areas, the gross square foot areas. And this is another area where the client makes mistakes. Like if you're building a laboratories, the technicians know exactly down to the square inch how much space they need. But that is a net square foot area. That is not the gross square foot area. The cost of the building is a direct function of the gross square foot area, not the net. And depending on the kind of facilities you're having, the proportion of net to gross can be 70 to 100, 80 to 100, and in some cases, even 50 to 100. So what happens is that all of these problems are solved at the pre-design level where nobody is designing anything. It's just a projection. It is just a simulation of design services. And then they also develop schedule. In corporate America, scheduling is very critical. Majority of the change orders during the construction, you would assume, are for the changes that affect the quantity of bricks and mortar. No, majority of the changes are because of the delay, time factor. So scheduling is hand in gloves with the costing. And site design, site capacity, the what we call parcel definition, there is a limit as to how much you can build on a site, and the square foot area. So a client subjects themselves to this kind of inquiry and ensure that their requirements fit the site, fit the budget, and fit the schedule. And only then they go to an architect saying, this is what we want on this particular site, for this particular budget, for this particular schedule. You be creative and design it. So pre-design is basically a simulation of design process without hiring an architect. I'd made a presentation to Gandhinagar IIT, and I explained this concept for campus design. And the director of the institute put it very nicely. What he said was that it's like hiring a surgeon to have it on your staff who does not perform surgery. Pre-design is a design, but there is no design activity. It is a designer who does it. And pre-design doesn't require an architect. I mean, majority of the pre-design work in the US is done by interior designers. I mean, some of these interior designers are major architectural firms like Gensler and HOK. But the point is that I always felt that the architect should take the lead in pre-design work, because what you're doing is you're translating the language. You're basically telling the story of the client, what client needs. But you're telling the story in a language that a designer can understand. And that's where architect's involvement as a pre-designer is very crucial. So basically, this is what pre-design is. In business parlance, they call it risk management, because who's Prerana? Okay, anyway. So basically, this is a very short discourse on pre-design.
Right. So I would like to, point out that in India, we do often hear about feasibility studies. You did mention that being a part of this. Can you tell us how it is different and how is it practiced, if with probably a case study in the US, something that you may have done?
Yeah. We, as I said, pre-design is a very formal, standardized documentation process. And we do all of that, but we don't have that defined process. We do it. Every brief is a pre-design. Every feasibility study is a pre-design, But what happens is that in the US, it is recognized as a distinctly architectural service for which you get paid. Problem in India is that it is very often seen as a way of getting in the door, more like a promotion just to get the job. And therefore, there is no discussion of the fees or anything like that. Now, the feasibility study part is little more defined, okay? And what happens is that very often you have a client who has a project but doesn't have a site. Very often you have a client who has a site but doesn't have a project. So let's take an example of a client with a site. He has a beautiful site, and per zoning, it can be residential, it can be commercial, it's possible. So he hires an architect who will develop studies and make recommendation, at least give him the pros and cons of each scheme. So even if it is a residential, whether it should be developed as a single family housing, whether it should be developed as townhouse community, whether it should be developed as a retirement community, all of those pros and cons. And very often, in a case like this, the architect will work with a real estate agent who have a pulse of the market. And the ultimate decision is not made on the basis of design. It is made on the basis of economic viability. We use words feasibility and viability in a very loose manner. Basically, what it means is that anything and everything is feasible. Electric car was feasible 50 years ago. It was feasible, but it was not economically viable. So a lot of these services that are performed, and all of these fall under the guise. I mean, I did study for it was no, it was not USPS. It was one of the carriers. It wasn't FedEx, UPS, and they were located on the East Coast in New Jersey. And the computer data center, huge computer data center, but there were problems with the electricity. I mean, with the brownouts, which is little better than blackout, but it's a disaster for computer data centers. They lose millions of dollars. So they wanted to have a feasibility study of relocating the entire thing throughout the country. We did a site selection study, and the site selection study was nationwide. So I personally went to Chicago, to Dallas, Texas, to South Carolina, places where there is a personnel enough to staff with the particular data center. And this was almost like a planning study. So that can be a pre-design. I was consultant to Johns Hopkins Hospital, and I started with the architect I used to work for. We did the MRI suite, one of the first ones. And there was a competition between Westinghouse and Siemens because everybody wanted to have their flag on the Johns Hopkins soil. By the time I was through with them, the last project I did for them was a signage that covered federal highways, state highways, county highways, and city streets. And all of these four agencies do their own signage. But we had to do like a planning study. We hired a company just to do an origin and destination survey,
Right.
just to show how many people come to Johns Hopkins Hospital every day and from what distance. And it was on the basis of the traffic study we could convince all the different authorities. And this is like layers of onion peel, one after another, different authorities overlapping each other. And we were successful in getting entire signage done by those departments. John Hopkins didn't spend a single penny for a sign.
Right. Yeah. So I think,
So I'm giving you a range of
right.
activities that can all happen under the umbrella of pre-design.
Yeah. So I think, we just got a comment saying, so does business viability take precedence over technical feasibility in India? Should they not go hand in hand? I think you have sort of answered that question, but maybe more specific to India. We do see a lot of business viability reports, which I think many a times is, to get the funding from banks rather than with the intention of solving the architect's problem at the design stage. I don't know. Is that what you feel as well?
I don't know. The situation in India is a little different. First thing is that there is a thing about awareness of pre-design. And the awareness in pre-design, no matter what I do, I mean, I've shied away from professionals, but what I've done is I've taken the scheduling and the cost part out of pre-design and focused on architectural programming and site analysis, because these two elements themselves help students design. You get a good grasp of the design problem, But when it comes to professional, I think pre-design will come to India not through the awareness of the professionals. And I'm sure many of our listeners may not agree with me or may take issues with what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that this will be thrust upon the professionals by the client.
Right.
Pretty soon, even Indian corporations will see that they have to compete with foreign entities to get projects in India.
Right. Yeah.
And then they will start doing the pre-design. I mean, imagine a company like IKEA setting up something to catch the opening of 2022 Diwali season.
Right.
And look at the disaster if the job is not done on time. Look at the amount of money IKEA is wasting because they have to order the furniture. They have to pre-order a lot of things. They have to hire people. They have to train them. They have to have advertising campaign. Look at the cost. Construction cost is the least of this cost. So the awareness will come, but it will come from the top.
Right. Right. So there's this one other thing that I wanted you to throw a little light on. How pre-design really gives us a better understanding of the programming of the project. I mean, what are the things that you do to arrive at the programs? Because what happens in India typically for architects, many a times, I'm sure, our esteemed audience will agree with me, they receive a requirement sheet, which sometimes may be based on something an admin person has just, thought about and created along with the seniors of the organization. And based on that, then the architects start designing. Of course, there may be a lot of gaps in that, and they just take their existing, facility into consideration and create the requirement sheet. How does pre-design really, change that? If you can throw a little light on that.
Yeah. I've not done many projects for pre-design, but we did one project. And fortunately, what happened was we went to make presentation. This was for Somaya Hospital. They were planning. They were doing a master plan, and we went in. Me and Prasad Anavkar, who was a co-writer with the book on pre-design, and Mahendra Parekh. And Mahendra Parekh was my colleague from Baltimore. He's currently in Valsad, my classmate from JJ, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And he had done some work for Somaya before from the US. So we had a meeting with Kirit Somaya, and we had our whole presentation, for pre-design and the slides and all of that stuff. And 5 minutes into the discussion about pre-design, Kirit Somaya got it. Just like Sudhir Jain at IIT Gandhinagar got it. And we started. And what is interesting is that our first meeting, project meeting, was with the administrator, which is normally the case. And we told them that this is a pre-design. We made a longer presentation to the administration after getting the job than we did with Kirit Somaya before getting the job. Okay? And we explained to them that in the process, we will be talking to not only administration, but all the heads of the departments, medical, as well as this is a hospital, this is a teaching hospital as well as college. We'll be talking to all the lab people. We'll be talking to all lab technicians. We'll be talking to the accountants. We'll be talking to people in the casualty wards. In essence, what we told them that if they think that we're going to just talk to them, no, we will talk to them about their problems, administration problems, administrative requirements. But we will talk to, and there was some resistance, but they all agreed. And we went even as far as talking to even the patients. So once they understand that all you're trying to do is understand the problem, and what happened was Somaya had already made a decision to demolish the existing hospital and build new one. And what we did was we said we will do a study, we'll do an audit of the building, not only in terms of typical structural audit or energy audit, but in terms of space utilization.
Right.
And we
Uh,
showed them that they could increase this capacity of the hospital by just redesigning the
True.
interior.
There are quite a few questions which are coming in. I won't go in the order that it has been sent out. Let me address one question which is very professional, and it's coming from Abhijit Taude. What can be done to change this scenario in India? Any suggestions? As we practicing architects experience it on a day-to-day basis. So the need for pre-design, basically.
Okay. One
What are
thing I
your
would do,
suggestions? Yeah.
yeah, uh, what has happened in the schools is what something professionals can do. I'll tell you what. Uh, Pre-design, you know, my book was published in 2015. Before that, I'd done a lot of seminars for faculty of architecture. And one of the questions that came up during all of the discussion was that our schedule is so tight, our resources are so limited. How can we give a couple of weeks for pre-design, which means not doing any design? Now, I find out, even I'm surprised, I find out that many of the colleges are including pre-design as a part of their design instruction.
All right.
And they're allowing 2 weeks for not drawing a single line.
So do you suggest then that the architects need to be a little patient and spend time on this, and then
I
right.
think architects need to do two things. One is keep the client at bay, saying that we need time to think about design because we are creative people. We need to sit under a mango tree and sip lemonade or gin and tonic or whatever it is till the muse strikes us and says, "Hey, Naresh, here's the design." So you buy time. But I think buy time, during that time, spend time interviewing people.
Right. But many a
And
times in India, the client needs everything yesterday. They are also very tight, and the holding power also sometimes, is what impacts these decisions. So that is where I
you
think,
asked me,
is the problem.
you asked me a question, I gave an answer, and the answer was what the colleges are doing. So
Right.
maybe you can talk to the college, see what they did. I'll tell
Right.
you what, when I started pre-design, okay, I had only one principle, which is I've developed the seminar. This was only 2 day seminar.
Mhm.
If you want to know about pre-design, I'll come and talk. If you don't want to, no harm done. So I was not pushing myself. And lo and behold, I was getting invitations from all over. And my first seminar was in Goa. And among other things, I went to Cuttack, Pilu University. A
Right.
week-long seminar there too.
I think
So,
there's a mention
yeah.
from Harshad Bhatia sir here, if I'm not mistaken. HB stands for that. Teaching faculty for design studio are already doing pre-design when they prepare the studio exercise. This needs to be reoriented to involve students in the preparation of the brief. I think that is the correct thing to talk about now, because it's the brief that we don't want the brief as it comes. We would rather have our thoughts on the brief as well. That's what pre-design tells us. Am I right?
Well, the problem is that we take school brief as a gospel or as a Gita. Don't question it. And what I'm saying is that even if you get a brief, you check it out. You look at other places where they're doing the same activities that you're doing, and validate it. Make sure you understand what the brief means. I'm telling you, many of the briefs that I've come across, contradictions within the brief itself. It's really common. And it's not just a brief prepared by the faculty. I'm talking about briefs prepared by the professionals, administration people. Somebody's given a charge, you're going to write the brief, and he writes the brief.
Right. I think we have one interesting question here, which says Ramandeep has asked, what are the architects' liabilities in pre-design? Because obviously, they're also, stakeholders in the whole process.
I'm surprised. Ramandeep has asked this question. In a country that even architects do not have professional liability. But even in the US, where there is a professional liability, there is least liabilities. You do not require professional liability insurance to start business as a pre-designer. That doesn't mean much in India, but in the US, it means a lot. It's a major expense that you don't have to worry about.
Right. I think we have one interesting question from Bobby sir. He's asking, how soon will the faculty members, how soon can the faculty members be trained to further train the design students? I think you're already working on this one, right?
Yeah. Well, as far as pre-design is concerned, when we were doing seminars on pre-design, almost every college wanted us to do a follow-up on the design. In other words, they wanted us to stay and help students with the design. And we refused to do it because, because everybody teaches design. Nobody teaches pre-design. So we didn't want to, divert our resources attention. It's only after 5, 6 years, 7 years that I started, I'm looking at now talking about design, So Bobby's question was about pre-design or design?
About pre-design. Like how soon do you think you can, the faculty members would be ready to further train the design students? It's obviously about pre-design.
Yeah. I think they're doing it now.
Right.
I'm telling you, I was in the States last year, a year before that, and I got a call from Vivekananda College of Architecture in Chembur. I'd never even heard of it, not that I know all the colleges in India, and they wanted me to address their students on pre-design. And I said, look, I'd gone there for medical treatment. So I said, look, I don't have any material with me. How can I make a presentation? They said, no, sir, you just talk. And we have the presentation. And I was sent a presentation on pre-design, which was based on my book.
Mm-hmm.
But there were a lot of things that were added. And this presentation was made by Anand Achari, who is the principal.
Right.
I was quite surprised. So they're doing it. A lot of colleges are teaching it. And the FTP, the Faculty Training Program at Council of Architecture, they invite students, faculty members from all over India, and they have a week-long seminar for all different subjects. Pre-design has been the first subject they teach nowadays. So it's spreading. And I told you about the pilot program for training videos,
Right.
because of Council of Architecture is opening a new portal. So all of their faculty training program would be done by training video. And for training, the pilot program, they have chosen pre-design.
That's interesting.
So,
We have a very interesting message here from Sarbani Ghosh. She says that as a current visiting faculty of design in JJ, I'm happy to share that we spend 1/4 of the entire semester on pre-design, in which students' ideas are also incorporated. Maybe with further training, this process can be improved. That's really a way to go with. Let's put it that way.
this is very heartening to know. Thank you.
That's really interesting. I think we could go on with this conversation. But we have some time constraints as well. So I think let me share your email ID, because if there is more that people want to discuss around this topic, Ramandeep has just posted your email ID as well. I think it would be a good idea to get in touch with you. Is there some other aspect of pre-design that you still wish to cover? Otherwise, I think it's pretty. It's been a very, very interesting conversation, and we've touched upon various aspects.
I think we've touched upon many aspects. The thing about awareness, pre-design awareness, and this is an area where I think I should spend more time, which I haven't, because what I did was, when you have limited resources, you want to, just use it judiciously. You don't want to spread it all around. So what I did was, judging from the resistance that I was getting when I initially started, and the majority, see, I belong, I'm 61, 66 graduate of JJ, okay? So majority of my friends were either heads of the institutions or directors or retired directors or dead. So I had access to everybody, but the resistance came from my age group. And I said, instead of beating my head against the wall, convincing my friends, I would rather go to people who I can help. So I focused on students.
Right.
Now I'm taking of that, and I feel that maybe I should spend more time talking both to the professionals as well as institutions. Because I'm telling you, pre-design is very critical for the client more than architect.
True.
So that is something I would like our audience to also advise me in this.
Right.
Things that they think can be of help. Because that is what will create awareness. Ultimately, the awareness will come from the clientele more than professionals.
Right. So we must thank AAJJA for giving us this platform and to actually talk about such an interesting topic and listen to you. It's been very knowledgeable. And Ramandeep, would you come in and let us know about what the future holds for us in this Knowledge Series 2022? Thank you. Thank you once again, sir. And thank you everyone for attending this.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for taking time to attend this seminar. It's really good to have you all here today. And we will be coming with many forthcoming series as well. And I think, Hiten, we would like you to speak about the series and how we are planning this. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Hello, Naresh. Always
Hello.
a pleasure seeing you and meet you and listen to you. And Sibani, you were great. I think you managed the session quite well. And guys, I mean, let me be very frank. This is all a collaborative sort of approach towards identifying the most important things which are required in everybody's life as architects. You know, so we have definitely planned more than 15 to 20 series sessions like this in our series, knowledge sharing series. The next being on 5th of Feb, where I think it will be convened by architect Sanjay Patil. And then again, we'll repeat we'll have another session on 26th Feb, that is again Saturday, which will be by architect Vijay Sohani, ex-president, Council of Architecture. And I think since 27th Feb is Marathi Divas, I think we'll be celebrating Marathi Divas online. And similarly, till month of May, we have series of programs, similar programs like this. I would be more happy if all of you can, join in us and give your interest of topics which you'd like to hear, and we can pick up professionals from different fields to address all of us on those particular subjects. As I told you earlier, we do endeavor to have very interesting project displays and presentations by various stalwarts, and look forward for success of this series. We really need your support, and of course, I would say nothing will be possible by doing things alone. I think collaboration again is the key word for today's century. So let's get together and make AAJJA a grand success. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye.